The cost of a typical monthly mortgage has doubled since I left office, and that number was about 3 months old from government, and now it's tripled. We had mortgage rates at around 2%, close to 2%, and they're now at 10%, and you can't get a mortgage. So that means it's a lot higher than 10%. I guess it is whenever they want to give over the money, and that's a lot more than 10%. So when you think about double, they've actually quadrupled or more than that. As the Attorney General, she destroyed California along with Gavin Newsom. And San Francisco, you know, was a great city 15 years ago. Now it's considered almost unlivable. You can't live there. And what they've done to that great state with the beautiful weather like this weather, they have this weather all the time. And they have the ocean, they have the sun, they have everything good. But what they've done to it is a shame. And she's going to do the same thing to our country. It was the policies. They had a recent article, and I didn't know this, but you're allowed to rob a store as long as it's not more than $950. Has everyone ever heard of that? You can rob a store, and you have these thieves going into stores with calculators calculating how much it is. Because if it's less than $950, they can rob it and not get charged. That was her that did that.
Just heard from Trump. You do all the fact-checking beautifully, Daniel. What stood out to you from what we have just heard in this so-called opening statement? He still hasn't started answering reporters' questions.
There was a whole bunch of lying wolf, many claims that I've debunked before, but I want to focus on two claims I haven't heard him made before, both of which are egregiously wrong. He claimed that California allows people to rob stores as long as the thieves take under $950, and he said that Vice President Harris is the one who did that. Both parts of that claim are totally false. First of all, shoplifting continues to be illegal in California at any amount. What actually happened was that in 2014, there was a referendum, a proposition on the ballot passed by California voters that made it a misdemeanor rather than a felony to steal under $950 worth of goods. But it's still illegal. It's still punishable by up to 6 months in jail. Now, as for the claim that Vice President Harris was the one who did that, in fact, she did not do it. She was Attorney General, and as Attorney General, she said it would be inappropriate for her to even take a public position on this initiative, so she stayed neutral on the matter. Now, Trump also claimed that mortgage rates are now 10%. Well, according to our really good business reporter, Brian Mina, the standard 30-year fixed-rate mortgage averaged 6.9% in the week ending August 15th, not even close to 10%. There are a whole bunch of other false claims, Wolf, but I fact-checked them before, including earlier this week, so I'll leave it at that for now, but just a whole bunch of nonsense from former President Trump.
Right now, I want to get some analysis from our political experts who are joining us right now. And Kristen Holmes, you cover the campaign, the Trump campaign for us. He appears to be talking pretty much on his message so far, reading from his notes, carefully scripted, as we all can see for much of his remarks. Is this what his campaign actually wanted him to do today?
This is what they've been wanting him to do for the last several weeks. I mean, he's not just carefully scripted. He's literally reading almost word for word from a binder in front of him. Now he has props. They're framing this as a speech on the economy, and I continue to remind our viewers, this is one of the messages that they have tried to get Trump to hammer home. If you look at the polling pre-Kamala Harris from President Joe Biden, Donald Trump polls ahead of Joe Biden on the issue of the economy. They believe that he could poll ahead of Kamala Harris on that issue if he continues to link Harris to the Biden administration, say that any policies of Biden's were the policies of Kamala Harris. You saw that yesterday really for the first time, him kind of trying out these new attack lines where he says, Kamala Harris says on day one she's going to end inflation. Well, her day one was 3.5 years ago. Allies have been trying to get him to say this for the last several weeks. They believe that Kamala Harris overall can be painted in the way that they want her to be painted, which is negatively, and as a radical liberal. However, Donald Trump has taken his own approach to this, and one that many of the people close to him, many of the people who want to see him elected in November, believe is the wrong approach, focusing on personal attacks, focusing on these fringe conspiracy theories. Now, the big interesting part of all of this, how does he handle taking questions from reporters? reporters. He's obviously still talking there. We don't know how long he's going to go. This is already longer than what we saw last week when I was at his press conference at Mar-a-Lago. But when he interacts with those reporters, that's when he gets off script. That is when the door is open for him to talk about those fringe conspiracy theories, for him to go off message. And that's really why some of these allies are surprised he's doing this again. Now, this again is all part of the narrative we've heard from Donald Trump and his team, that he is taking questions from the press. So does J.D. Vance, but Kamala Harris is not. But again, what we're waiting to see is what actually happens when Donald Trump puts that binder down and speaks to reporters.
Well, once he starts taking reporters' questions, we'll go back and listen to hear what he has to say. David Chalian, you're a political director. What do you make of what we've heard from Trump so far today?
You know, I think he is trying to do a sort of traditional political bit of stagecraft here, which is to what they call bracket your opponent's event. And so understanding that Kamala Harris is going to go and put out a slice of her economic policy tomorrow in North Carolina, he's trying to pre-butt that and obviously draw the contrast that if indeed he does take questions, that he is willing to take questions when she wasn't. It was interesting to hear one thing he said, Wolf, when he said, you know, I've been around politicians long enough to know they always return to their original position. Now, I don't know if that means that Donald Trump was signaling that he was going to be pro-choice again at some point, that he would start donating to Democrats, that he's going to start campaigning again on the repeal of Obamacare, which he went away from. So I'm not sure exactly what he was trying to do there, other than, of course, highlight that Kamala Harris ran on super liberal positions in a Democratic primary in 19 and 20, or she didn't make it to 20, actually. She was out by the December of 19. And that we know through her aides in comments to reporters that she has tossed aside a lot of those positions. And clearly the Trump campaign wants to try and tie those more liberal, perhaps less popular with the voters she needs right now in a general election context, positions around her neck.
You know, David Urban, from what we've seen of Trump over these many years so far, this has been a somewhat low-energy performance from Trump, at least so far. Are you happy with the economic message he's been delivering?
Wolf, I love it. I love it just how it's going. It's perfect, right? Let's talk about the issues, Wolf. I think, you know, Kristen hit on it earlier when Trump said, you know, Kamala Harris said day one she's going to attack inflation, that she's been on the job for 3.5 years. Her day one was 3.5 years ago. So I love that. I love the messaging. I love the props. This is a little bit traditional. It's a little bit traditional politics, which Trump supporters aren't used to seeing, as David Chalian says, a little stagecraft there with some items, what they used to cost, what they cost today, showing the kind of rampant inflation. So I love it. I'll take low energy and on message any day. I think it's perfect.
You know, David Axelrod, Trump has been taking a direct aim, as we all know, at Kamala Harris, blaming her for price increases, slamming her plan to ban on price gouging. You think that has been effective, at least so far?
Well, we'll see, Wolf. I don't know that I would call what I just heard perfect, because he can't help but include sort of sidelong references that are personal in nature and so on. One thing that caught my ear was he condemned her for not wanting to extend the Trump tax cut. I think that one of the single least popular elements of his presidency was that tax cut, which heavily favored very wealthy people and corporations at a huge price tag, and now he wants to make them permanent. That gives her something to work with on Friday. But what this press conference does reflect is that his team is trying to dragoon him into following a script. I'm not sure he completely did here, but he is moving toward that. And this is the case they want to make, that she was co-pilot on this journey with Biden, and therefore she should be held accountable for everything that people perceive hasn't gone well under Biden. And I mean, by that token, I guess that you could blame Mike Pence for all the policies of the Trump administration. But we'll see if it sticks. She's on a glide path right now. They're going to hit some bumps in the road. They're trying to throw some bumps in the way. But he's trying to stop her momentum, which has been substantial since the day that Joe Biden dropped out and she dropped in.